sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises early in the morning. Putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober.
St. Patrick's Day, St. Paddy's Day, Feast of St. Patrick, however you choose to refer to this cultural and religious holiday, today is the day. So I have several Yankee Candle St. Patrick's Day themed fragrances right here beside me. Let's jump into it. Let's dive in deep. And baby, where's my gold? Where did that come from? That is not staying in. That will get cut out. Right here in front of me, I certainly have one of Yankee Candle's most popular, famous St. Patrick's Day themed fragrances. Lucky Shamrock, a returning favorite or a Yankee treasure. 2014, right here on the label, the Shamrock had this felt-like material. So it was like this textural experience, which was really cool. In the center, illuminated, very lucky four-leaf clover, as if there was this divine sunlight shining from the sky, illuminating just this one shamrock. When this was released in the past, it was usually released as a limited edition candle. I am very familiar with this candle. I have burned this candle. I have owned this candle. Woo! So if you really had to sum up this candle in 3 words, 3 adjectives: green, fresh, and powerful. So green, not in just the color, but the smell. There's that wet grass. There's the grass stain on your jeans. There's that wheatgrass juice that we get at Jamba Juice. And fresh in that it smells like products that we would find in the bathroom, bath and body products like soaps or shaving creams. And powerful in that it is in your face, powerhouse pungent. But I will say this, upon sniffing this one candle, I do remember this being a little stronger in previous years, meaning this was more in the realm of Edelweiss, where you crack that thing open, you smell it, and your head almost gets thrown back several inches. It does seem to be a little bit more tame. But that may not be a bad thing at all. In fact, for me, it's a good thing. However, still powerful. And we have to say clover, right? Mention that sweet clover smell. Or coromine. Coromine is the chemical organic compound in like fresh cut grass that gives it that sweet green aroma. And that is definitely in there. It's like when you're cleaning your lawnmower underneath, hopefully the lawnmower is off, but when you're cleaning underneath and you get those big globs of wet, clumped up grass, that's that smell, that sweet, freshly cut grass smell. Think of this, when you take a head of iceberg lettuce, you slice it in half and you pull out the center. You know that yellowish color part of the wedge of lettuce? It's very bitter tasting and even smells pretty powerful. A little bit of this pea pod action as well. Spanish olive oil. Why am I being so specific? Well, if you've ever had Spanish olive oil or you're familiar with Spanish olive oil, it's got that spicy, grassy, hay-like aroma and flavor. And so this is really starting to show a concept because we have that olive oil with those fresh greens. So we're kind of making a salad, right? But what else are we missing? We're missing the vinegar or the citrus, right? There's a little bit of a lime zest coming through here, but not a bright citrus juice aroma. And let's say it's August, you're out in the garden, you pick a cucumber, and you're one of those types that you don't need to cut the skin off. I eat the whole cucumber, skin and all. You get that big green cucumber skin, fresh and refreshing. But here's something I never get to talk about. Vegetal components. You talk about it all the time in wine, but when it comes to candles, you're usually not smelling a whole lot of vegetables. But in this case, if you have this at home right now, pick it up off the shelf and put your nose in the jar, and you tell me you do not smell green bell peppers. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and if we want to be really specific about it, it's not necessarily the flesh of the green bell pepper as much as it is the membrane, the whiter stuff inside that we trim off before we cook the pepper, and the seeds as well. And just to take a small tangent, if you don't mind, if you are a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc fan, classically known for having that green bell pepper aromatic in flavor, maybe you could pair this with a stone fruit, or better yet, citrus-based candle, because New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc also synonymous with having that classic ruby red grapefruit, or sometimes that nectarine peach aromatic as well. So juicy grapefruit and Lucky Shamrock, burn them together, it's worth a shot. I'd do it. And something that we can't deny about this candle are the florals. And especially the longer I have this lid off the jar, they're starting to show themselves a little bit more. Not that this is a floral smell, but rose stems. Like when you walk into the florist and you smell those freshly clipped rose stems. Again, that's more of a green chlorophyll aroma. And lily of the valley. So not subtle florals. On the contrary, very powerful florals. So those florals do compete with the greenness. The greenness is going to win, but we have two very powerful, that third adjective, powerful components competing against each other. And vetiver. Vetiver is an important one. It's going to give men's cologne, men's fragrances, and this candle an earthy component, which really complements all of the green notes. Those rolling hills of Ireland are certainly coming to mind. This candle takes you places. It definitely paints a portrait. And what an amazing candle for St. Patrick's Day. Lucky Shamrock by Yankee Candle. We're going to move on to this little guy. This is a 2013 pour going by the name of Luck o' the Irish. Luck o' the Irish. This is not to be mistaken with Lucky Green. This is not the same candle. The first thing I want to address is the label. Usually when we see labels like this, it's implying that it's a swirl candle. This is Trick or Treat. 4 quadrants. We have 2 buttercreams and we have 2 candy corns. There's other swirl candles like Pumpkin Patch. Pumpkin Patch is a swirl candle of harvest and spiced pumpkin, but if you notice on the inside, we don't have those divisions. So my best guess, because there's no documentation on this, this is a swirl candle of what 2 fragrances? You know, I can't quite say. More importantly, what does this smell like? Let's break it open. Let's give it a sniff. So like Lucky Shamrock, we have that sweet clover, we have that green aroma, the soothing aloe, barbasol, shaving cream. Cucumber water. Have we ever had cucumber water? Super refreshing. So less on the pungent green smell here and a little bit more of a refreshing green. There's also a minty or menthol component in here, and little bit of herbs as well. I'm going to classify it as cilantro and parsley. So green, but definitely taking a different approach than the Lucky Shamrock. But you still get that sun-kissed grass. You know, April showers, followed by the hot sun rays, and that moisture starts to evaporate. You know that smell, that that wet grass that is slowly being heated up by the sun. Much more tame than the Lucky Shamrock. So if the Lucky Shamrock seems like it's way too powerful for you, this might be something that you could burn to dial down the intensity. There's also a pine or hemlock nuance here, not like a Christmas tree. It's not super powerful. And what that reminds me of is hops. Hops that we use for making ale, right? This is fruity. This has that tropical fruit aromatics. Melon being a big component of that. But something also that's very interesting is like an underripe green plantain. And again, I'm trying not to be influenced by the color here, but I really think that's an accurate assessment. So tropical fruit matched with the clean, green, herbal, grassy smell of the spring. Look at the Irish. Now this candle right here in no way is promoted as a St. Patrick's Day candle, but I think it qualifies for a few reasons. This is going to be Meadow Showers. So let's do it. The major appeal to this candle, Lucky Shamrock has a lot of bridging of aromatics. Bridging would be like grapefruit or lemon or grass and clover. They're very similar, so they smell the same, creating a bridge. Where this is going to be more of complementing aromas. Complementing is in the same category, but they don't necessarily smell the same. And when you put them together, you're enhancing the sum of its parts. That, and because this covers a large spectrum of aroma, the greens. We have to talk about the leafy greens. The lettuce, the romaine, the spinach, the kale, the dandelion greens. You name it. There's citrus here. So again, we're creating that salad idea, illusion, grapefruit, zestiness. Also, like the Lucky Shamrock, there's a clean factor here. We're getting a soapy, amber-like cleanness this time, but also clean in the sense of like fabric softener, laundry detergent, classic lavender, the cooling eucalyptus, right? That's gonna really be important. That cooling sensation really supports this bucket, which I would imagine is very cold rainwater. Lang Lang flowers. Now, Lang Lang, what did I just say? If you're not familiar with essential oils, I highly recommend you visit your local fragrance store. You smell it once, you'll never forget it. There's other florals in here as well. Tulips, you know, like Happy Spring. Tulips have a slightly fruity side to them. To me, it shows itself as stone fruit, like peaches and nectarines, specifically like white peach. Hyacinth flowers, these are not subtle, these are not gentle, they're not soft. Those adjectives do not fit hyacinth at all. Hyacinth is very pungent, very powerful. I know there's a wooden base, but it's made up of different components to the point where it's hard to classify. A winter green, or even more a spearmint subtlety off this candle. Meadow Showers does not disappoint in my eyes. If it's not in your collection, it gets my vote, and I recommend you pick one up. And if you can find the one with the full label, you might like that one too. This is a pair of candlesticks by Yankee Candle. Yes, they also made candlesticks. Scented candlesticks. And if you take a close look at this label, you can see that this has some age to it. And by process of elimination, I'm going to age this candle around 30 years, give or take. In big bold letters, Shamrock. 'Tis the luck of the Irish to be having their own candle for St. Patrick's Day. Also in big bold letters. So is it called Shamrock? Is it called St. Patrick's Day? Is it called Shamrock St. Patrick's Day? It's unclear. Furthermore, it says, these Shamrock candles are handcrafted by Yankee Candle Company, South Deerfield, Massachusetts. So we know that it's older than 1983 because that's when South Deerfield was established. But if you look at the font of Yankee Candle, this was before the change of what we know as the classic Yankee Candle font. The T-R-A-J-A-N, however you pronounce that font. Now, this is in perfect condition, pristine if you ask me. There's no holes, there's no dings, there's no bends. And it hurts me to do this, and it might hurt you for you to see me do this, but I am going to sacrifice this relic, this something that belongs in a Yankee Candle archive for this video. Because this is a scented pair of candlesticks, what I'm going to do is cut this open with this pocket knife right here, and I'm gonna cut off a piece of one of these candlesticks. From there, I'm going to take that candlestick and I'm going to pop it inside of this mason jar right here. Put the lid on and then put this mason jar in a pot of not quite boiling water, but pretty hot water until all of that wax finally melts. So let's tip this over. And are we ready? Are we ready to do this? Let's make an incision right here. Oh, yep, that is now officially opened, and amazingly very aromatic. Usually I use 5 ounces, or excuse me, 5 grams of wax for the aroma prison, but I'm going to use a little bit more for this guy because, as you can see, the center is, I'm guessing, not scented at all. That's just going to be pure white paraffin wax, and just the outer rim is going to have the green scented part. So let's take our mason jar, we're going to pop off the top, we're going to take that candlestick, we're going to drop it right in there, and really close that nice and tight, locking and trapping the candle inside. And the only thing left to do is to put this in some hot water, melt it down, and then we're ready for some sensory evaluation. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back, and as we can see, we have a completely melted candlestick. It's hot. Right. First, right off the bat, white musk or floral musk, because there's a little bit of this powdery talcum thing going on. Also a little bit of Johnson & Johnson's baby powder. But immediately something that I smell is citrus, which I was not expecting. Bergamot. Yeah, really tart, bright bergamot. I mean, it's so zesty. I totally was not expecting that at all. Like, you just microplaned an underripe lime, but that talcum powder, that baby powder is making me, it's bringing me to the barber shop. It's putting me into that state of mind. There is a certain amount of masculinity to this fragrance, which again, you know, that's subjective, but I'm saying that because it does remind me of certain components of men's cologne. Some of those components being vetiver, again, that really earthy component that is synonymous with so many classic men's colognes. Geranium or rose, and patchouli. Yeah, not witch's brew. It's not witch's brew, but we are getting some of that earthy, herbaceous, even woodsy patchouli and amber. A little bit of that, again, clean bar soap, very warm, thick, heavy scent, comforting scent of amber. And although I said white musk, there is another musky side to this, which I think is really kind of capping off why, for me, this is a masculine approach. And that's going to be a leathery musk, like pure, brand new, rawhide shoelaces. Right out of the package, you smell that rawhide. And because of its age, and because nothing is really triggering my mind to go in either direction as far as wood base, I believe there's a wood base here, but again, it's really not distinguishable for me, but I would be happy and completely satisfied to classify this as a sandalwood base note in here. But the big question is, do I smell aged? Does this smell old? Does this smell like this candle's been sitting in a basement somewhere? No, not at all. This candle smells brand new. I think just for the label alone, it's worth the price of admission.
Should I wear this throughout the review? I don't think I should. There's already several people looking at me. I'm gonna take this off. But know that I am in the St. Patrick's Day mood. First candle, Emerald Isle. Look at that label. Yeah, they're definitely improving these labels now. There's a lot of depth to this photography, which I'm very excited about. Okay, so it's safe to say this is not necessarily what I was expecting, and I'm liking it, I'm liking it. So a very appropriate color, very appropriate name, Emerald, because this is a very green candle. Green in a lot of ways. Definitely a fresh cut grass, lemongrass. Imagine if lime grass existed. Wintergreen, because there's a little bit of this cooling sensation. Lemon verbena. Lemon verbena at times can smell very limey. There's clover, there's pine. So what I'm describing may sound like a basic Irish Spring bar of soap, but it's not, because it's going to be embellished with big time citrus. And for me, what's coming through is undeniably grapefruit. Grapefruit juice, grapefruit zest. You get that ruby red citrus that's brightening up all of those green herbaceous notes. And that lemon verbena, lemongrass thing is kind of tied together with that grapefruit. I think a lot of IPA beer lovers might find this candle interesting because it shares a lot of the same qualities as the variety of hops Simcoe. Simcoe hops have a very peachy, citrusy, grapefruit, pine needle, aromatic profile. And all of those things are happening inside of this candle. So St. Patrick's Day, IPA beer, I'm getting it, I'm getting it. But all of those notes in that Simcoe hop is adding to this environmental experience that we see on the label as well. except maybe for the citrus. Let me tell you, this is a very refreshing scent because with that tartness, it's also bringing the sweetness, like fruit punch aroma or margarita, you know, that lime margarita. But you ever get a margarita where instead of the salt, they give you like ground up lime zest and sugar, like granulated sugar on the rim? Yeah, this is like a sweet, zesty, limey margarita, minus the tequila. This has a very sweet fabric softener laundry room aroma, probably because of the inclusion of a white musk, a very clean scent. So even as green as this candle is, it's going to have that contrast of sweetness, fruitiness. So Emerald Isle, a bit of a departure from your typical St. Patrick's Day scented candle. If you like that Irish Spring bar soap laundry room fabric softener clean aroma, but with some citrus and that sweet stone fruit peachiness, this is something that you might want to have for St. Patrick's Day. Just again, to mix things up. It's not going to be overly herbaceous and floral like some of the other typical St. Patrick's Day candles that you find all over the place this time of year. Emerald Isle, very cool. Let's move on. Sweet Irish coffee. Oh man, very excited when I hear that a brand new coffee fragrance is going to be released, especially when it's Yankee Candle, because I'm waiting for that bombastic expression of espresso bean, that authentic coffee bean aroma. Usually when you find coffee scents, it's really a conglomeration of things that you put into coffee. You know, the sugar, the creamer, the half and half, the hazelnut flavorings, the caramel flavorings. But I'm always in search of an incredibly authentic espresso crema on top coffee aroma. So I'm very familiar with Irish coffee. If anyone's been to San Francisco, Buena Vista, and gotten an Irish coffee or two or three, I was a frequent there whenever I spent time in the city. Let us jump into this caffeinated Yankee Candle. Here we go. So a copious amount of chocolate here in many different forms. Chocolate fudge, semi-sweet, cocoa powdered covered chocolate truffles, Hershey's syrup, and chocolate milk, because it has this luscious dairiness to it, which I guess we could say is that cream or steamed milk on the top of this Irish coffee. Wow, like freshly made brownie batter. In fact, years ago, Starbucks used to make an espresso brownie. And my mind might be deceiving me, but I believe I'm detecting the smallest amount of mint in the background here. Interesting. I've never had an Irish coffee with mint, but I think that's what's happening. And there's definitely a vanilla quality to this candle. This is totally like a 50s diner, Happy Days, grease lightning, vanilla shake, sipping it out of one of those barbershop straws, or maybe even scooping it with a spoon because of the thickness, but a very sweet vanilla component. And that sweetness, I believe, is tied in with the brown sugar element. Brown sugar is a very popular ingredient in Irish coffee. There's a little bit of marshmallow, which is, guess what, creating that s'mores effect. We have that chocolate, we have that vanilla marshmallow sweetness, and with the addition of like cinnamon and nutmeg, those baking spices, and that brown sugar, that's kind of creating that graham cracker crust. So totally a s'mores experience here. So do you like walnuts on your brownies? I do. I am picking up on a nuttiness here, but it's not necessarily walnuts. It's more of this sweet raw almond, like almond milk. So let me tell you, delicious, delicious candle, but what's interesting is there is little to no coffee or booziness like Irish whiskey coming through. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you are expecting a coffee-driven or an Irish whiskey, like an oak-aged Irish whiskey forwardness, smokiness, woodiness, espresso bean, that's really not what's happening here. This is a massively sweet candle. very delicious, appropriate for St. Patrick's Day. But I think we could just as easily call this spiced hot cocoa and get away with it without any arguments, because that chocolate is really dominating this candle. And although we do get chocolate fudgy notes on coffee, we get nutty notes on coffee, we get baking spice notes on coffee, you know, coffee beans still have a very distinct aroma, and it's just not coming through here. If that is the approach, hey, I'm okay with that. I mean, this is very reminiscent of chocolate layer cake or chocolate truffle by Yankee Candle, and maybe even spiced white cocoa. So sweet Irish coffee, I don't know, but delicious, absolutely. Would I burn this? You better believe it. I see why a lot of people like this. If you like really sweet, chocolatey, bakery shop, chocolate shop, Willy Wonka-esque candles, this is a great one for St. Patrick's Day, or guess what? Any time of the year. What do you think?